The waiting room at New Orleans Children's Hospital smelled of disinfectant and silent desperation. Scarlett Morrison held the small, cold hand of Elijah, her 3-year-old son, while trying to process the words Dr. Ramirez had just spoken. Acute myeloid leukemia, advanced stage, 3 years. 3 years since she'd fled in the middle of the night, leaving behind only a vague note and a broken heart. 3 years building a life away from him, away from that truth she'd discovered too late. The man she'd loved, who'd made her dance under the stars in his empty studio, who'd kissed her like she was the only woman in the universe, was Luigi Ferrari, the Wolf of New Orleans, the most dangerous man in Louisiana. And now, sitting in that cold plastic chair, watching her baby fall asleep with that sickly pallor staining his cheeks, Scarlett knew the time for running was over. The best chance is a bone marrow transplant from a compatible sibling, the doctor continued, her voice gentle but relentless. Parents are rarely compatible enough. Do you have other children, Ms. Morrison? Scarlett felt the floor disappear beneath her feet. No, her voice failed. His father, we're not together. Does he have other children? Siblings for Elijah? Not that I know of. Lie. Luigi had no children. She knew because he'd told her that night when they drank cheap wine in her tiny apartment, before everything fell apart. Never had time for family. My work, it's complicated. Complicated. What an absurdly inadequate word to describe running half of New Orleans' underworld. Then you'll need to contact him, Dr. Ramirez said, as if it were simple, as if Scarlett could just pick up the phone and call a mob boss. If he agrees to have another child, we can do the in vitro fertilization procedure and he doesn't know. The words came out in a rough whisper. He doesn't know about Elijah. The silence that followed was broken only by the rhythmic beeping of medical monitors in the background. Then you need to tell him. Now. The doctor wasn't being cruel, just factual. Acute myeloid leukemia in children this age. Time is a luxury you don't have. 2 hours later, Scarlett stood outside the Velvet Sapphire, the nightclub that served as a front for the Ferrari empire. Her reflection in the mirrored glass showed a woman different from that 18-year-old girl who danced there for the first time, hired for a private performance. Too thin now, with dark circles that no makeup could hide, wearing faded jeans and a simple blouse instead of the flowing dresses she used to wear. Elijah was hospitalized alone while she did what she should have done 3 years ago. The security guard at the door was new. Didn't recognize her. Club opens at 9, he said, without taking his eyes off his phone. I need to speak with Luigi Ferrari. That got his attention. Dark eyes scanned her up and down, assessing threats. Mr. Ferrari doesn't take visits without an appointment. Tell him Scarlett Morrison is here. She raised her chin, fighting the tremor in her voice. Tell him it's about something he'll want to know. The guard spoke into his earpiece. They waited. Scarlett counted her breaths, trying not to think about Elijah alone in that hospital room, trying not to remember the last time she'd been here, laughing in Luigi's arms as he spun her around the empty dance floor after the club closed. You were the dance teacher. The voice came from behind her, deep and familiar, making every hair on her body stand on end. Scarlett turned slowly. Luigi Ferrari hadn't changed. Still had that presence that sucked the oxygen from any room, that suit that probably cost more than her car. Luigi. 3 years. He descended the entrance steps with the predatory grace of a big cat. 3 years without a word, without explanation. And now you show up here like nothing happened? I can explain. I'm not interested. His voice was cold enough to burn. You made your choice when you decided to disappear. Whatever reason brought you back, it's not my problem. He started to turn, and Scarlett felt panic explode in her chest. You have a son. Luigi froze. The air around them seemed to solidify. Slowly, dangerously slowly, he turned back to face her. And for the first time in 3 years, Scarlett saw something beyond ice in those eyes. She saw the fury of a volcano about to erupt. Say that again. Elijah, our son, he's 3 years old. The words tumbled out now, desperate. And he's dying, Luigi. Leukemia. He needs a marrow transplant from a sibling. He needs you to. Luigi's hand closed around her arm like a steel vice, pulling her inside the club. The guard opened the door without a word, and Scarlett found herself being dragged through the empty main hall, past tables covered with cloths, past the silent bar, to the private office in the back. The door slammed behind them with a bang that echoed like a gunshot. You have exactly 5 minutes. Luigi released her arm, putting distance between them as if she were radioactive. 5 minutes to tell me everything. And if you're lying, if this is some kind of con, I have proof. Scarlett pulled out her phone with trembling hands, finding the photo folder. Here. He was born 6 months after I left. He has your eyes, Luigi. And this. She swallowed hard, finding the most recent image. This was taken yesterday at the hospital. Luigi took the phone. His face was an impenetrable mask as he scrolled through the photos. Elijah as a baby. Elijah taking his first steps. Elijah blowing out the candles on his 3rd birthday 3 weeks ago, with that huge smile that used to light up Scarlett's world. And then the hospital photo. Elijah too small in that enormous bed connected to wires and tubes, with skin too pale and circles too deep for a child. The silence stretched. Luigi didn't return the phone, didn't look at her, just stood there frozen like a statue, staring at the image of a son he didn't know he had. When he finally spoke, his voice was so low Scarlett almost didn't hear it. Did you know you were pregnant when you left? No. I found out 2 weeks later. I was already in Houston working at another dance studio. I thought about coming back, but she closed her eyes. I saw the news. The shooting at the docks. The federal charges. I finally understood who you really were. And I was scared. Scared. Luigi raised his eyes to her, and Scarlett involuntarily took a step back at the pure fury she saw there. You were scared, so you decided to rob me of 3 years with my son. Decided I didn't even deserve to know he existed. I was protecting him. Protecting? The word came out like a roar. Luigi took 2 steps toward her, and Scarlett found herself cornered against the wall. You were protecting him by keeping him from his father? Raising my son in poverty when he could have had everything. And now that you need me, now that he's sick, you decide maybe I'm useful? It's not like that. Then how is it? He slammed his hand on the wall beside her head, and Scarlett felt tears burning her eyes. Tell me, Scarlett, how should I see this? The woman He stopped abruptly, jaw tense. The woman I trusted uses me and disappears. Leaves me thinking I'd done something wrong, that maybe you'd gotten hurt. I looked for you for months. I'm sorry. Your sorry means nothing. Luigi pulled away, running his hand through his hair in a gesture of frustration she recognized all too well. Where is he now? Elijah. At the hospital. Admitted. Alone. Alone? His voice rose dangerously. You left my sick son alone in a hospital to come here? I didn't have a choice. You think I wanted to leave him? But I needed to talk to you in person. I needed address of the hospital. Scarlett gave the name of the hospital, watching as he dialed a number on his own phone. Marco, I need you to go to New Orleans Children's Hospital. There's a child there, Elijah Morrison, admitted. I want him transferred to Memorial Hospital immediately. Private wing, best doctors available. He paused. He's my son. And Marco? If anyone tries to stop the transfer, handle it. He hung up before Scarlett could protest. You can't just... I can. And I will. Luigi turned to face her, and there was nothing of the man she'd known in those eyes. Only the wolf of New Orleans. You came to ask me for help? Then you'll get it. But on my terms. From now on, Elijah is under my protection. The best doctors, the best treatments, whatever he needs. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Luigi crossed the office to a bottle of whiskey on a side table, pouring a generous shot. Because there's a price, Scarlett. There's always a price. The cold fear settled back in her stomach. What price? Luigi downed the shot in one gulp, placing the glass back on the table with a precise click. You want me to give Elijah a sibling? Want me to be the donor? Then you're going to marry me. The world stopped. What? You heard me perfectly. He approached again, and this time there was no fury in his face. There was something worse. Determination. You're going to marry me. You're going to live in my house. You're going to be my wife in every sense that implies. And we're going to have another child. The traditional way, not in some cold laboratory. You're insane. You can't force me to... I'm not forcing anything. Luigi tilted his head, and a cold smile curved his lips. You're free to say no. Free to go back to your miserable apartment and watch our son die. Or you can accept my terms and give him the only chance he has. This is blackmail. This is justice. He crossed his arms. You stole 3 years from me, Scarlett. 3 years I'll never get back. 3 years of first words, first steps, first everything. Now you're going to give me the chance to be a father the right way. And who knows? His eyes scanned her up and down. Maybe in the process I'll figure out why the hell I can't get you out of my head even after everything. Scarlett felt her legs weaken. This wasn't love. It was possession. Revenge. control. But when she thought of Elijah in that hospital bed, so small and so sick, she knew she had no choice. Never did. How long? Her voice came out hoarse. How long until I get pregnant? The doctors will determine that. But figure about 6 months at least. Luigi went to his desk, pulling papers from a drawer. My lawyer will prepare the marriage contract. You'll sign a prenup. No community property. What's mine stays mine. But I'll take care of you and the children, no matter what happens. And after? After Elijah is cured? Luigi stopped writing, raising his eyes to her. After we decide if this marriage is real or just paper. But until then, Scarlett Morrison. He stood, extending his hand. You're mine. Scarlett looked at that extended hand. The hand of the man who once held hers with tenderness. The hand of the mobster who now trapped her in a gilded cage. The hand that might be her son's only chance to survive. She took it. I accept. And sealed her fate with a handshake that felt much more like a pact with the devil than an engagement. Luigi pulled her abruptly against his chest, keeping her hand trapped between them. One more thing, he murmured against her ear, his breath hot on her prickled skin. You deceive me again, run again, hide anything from me again, and I'll make you regret every second you spent away. Understood? Understood, Scarlett whispered, hating how her body still reacted to his proximity. Good. Luigi released her as abruptly as he'd grabbed her. The car will pick you up tomorrow at 8 in the morning. Bring only the essentials. Leave the rest behind. Your old life is over, darling. Welcome to the Ferrari family. When Scarlett left the Velvet Sapphire 15 minutes later, shivering in the cold New Orleans night air, she knew 3 things with absolute certainty. First, she'd just sold her freedom to save her son. Second, Luigi Ferrari would never forgive her for the betrayal. And third, the next few months would be either her redemption or her complete destruction. She was betting on the second option. The Ferrari estate sat behind iron gates in the Garden District, a sprawling mansion that screamed old money and older violence. Scarlett pressed her forehead against the car window, watching manicured gardens blur past as they drove up the circular driveway. 24 hours. That's all it had taken for her entire life to implode and reconstruct itself into something unrecognizable. Ms. Morrison. Marco, Luigi's driver and apparent right-hand man, opened her door. He was built like a linebacker, with kind eyes that didn't match the gun she'd spotted under his jacket. Mr. Ferrari is with Elijah at Memorial. He asked me to get you settled. Scarlett's heart clenched. How is he? My son? Stable. The new doctors are running tests. Marco grabbed her single suitcase. Everything she owned that mattered fit in one bag. Boss had him moved to the pediatric wing. Private room, round-the-clock nursing staff. Relief and resentment warred in her chest. Relief that Elijah was getting proper care. Resentment that it took Luigi's money and power to make it happen. That she'd been drowning alone for 3 years while he had resources she couldn't even imagine. The mansion's interior was exactly what she'd expected. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, artwork that probably cost more than she'd earn in a lifetime. What she hadn't expected was the warmth. Thick rugs, comfortable furniture, photos on the walls showing Luigi at various ages with an older couple who had to be his parents. The family wing is upstairs, Marco said, leading her to a sweeping staircase. Mr. Ferrari's room is at the end of the hall. Yours is next to his, I assume. Scarlett's voice came out sharper than intended. Marco's expression didn't change. Yes, ma'am. Connected by a sitting room. Of course. Because Luigi Ferrari didn't do anything halfway. If he was going to trap her, he'd do it in style. Her room was bigger than her entire Houston apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the gardens. A king-sized bed dominated one wall, and an ensuite bathroom featured a tub that could fit 3 people. The closet was already stocked with clothes. Designer labels, all in her size. How did he? Boss is thorough, Marco said simply. Dinner's at 7. Mrs. Castellano, the housekeeper, will show you down. Anything you need, just ask. After he left, Scarlett sank onto the bed, finally allowing herself to feel the full weight of what she'd done. She'd sold herself, agreed to have another child with a man who looked at her like she was simultaneously his greatest desire and worst enemy. Her phone buzzed. Luigi. At the hospital with our son. Doctors say he's comfortable. They're starting preliminary treatment protocols. Be ready at 6:30. We're going to dinner. Not a request, a command. Scarlett typed back, I want to see Elijah. The response came immediately. After dinner. You'll see him every day. But tonight, we have appearances to maintain. My family needs to meet my fiancé. Her stomach dropped. His family. She'd agreed to marry into the Ferrari organization, but somehow she hadn't thought through what that actually meant. What do I tell them? The truth. That we were together before. You got scared when you learned about my work, and now we're making it work for our son. They'll understand that better than lies. Scarlett stared at the message. It was almost exactly what had happened, just missing the part where he was blackmailing her into marriage. At 6:30 sharp, Scarlett descended the stairs in one of the dresses from the closet, a navy blue number that was elegant without being ostentatious. She'd wrestled her auburn hair into a neat bun and applied minimal makeup, trying to look like someone who belonged in this world. Luigi waited in the foyer, and Scarlett's breath caught despite everything. He'd changed into a charcoal suit that fit him like a second skin. His dark hair slicked back, and those green eyes that used to make her melt now assessed her with clinical precision. "You look good," he said, offering his arm. It wasn't a compliment. It was an observation. "Where are we going?" "Giordano's. My Uncle Sal owns it. Sunday dinners are mandatory for family." He led her to a black Mercedes. "Ground rules. Don't mention specifics about your life in Houston. Don't discuss Elijah's condition in detail. And absolutely don't mention the arrangement between us. As far as they know, we're reconciling because we still have feelings for each other." "Do we?" The words slipped out before she could stop them. Luigi's jaw tightened as he opened her door. "Get in the car, Scarlett." The drive to the restaurant was silent except for the soft jazz playing on the radio. Scarlett watched the city slide past. The French Quarter with its wrought iron balconies, tourists stumbling along Bourbon Street, the Mississippi River glinting in the setting sun. New Orleans had been her home once back when she thought Luigi was just a successful club owner with a mysterious past. How naive she'd been. Giordano's occupied a corner building in the warehouse district, unassuming from the outside but clearly upscale. A valet took the car keys with a respectful nod, and Luigi's hand found the small of Scarlett's back as he guided her inside. The touch burned through the thin fabric of her dress. "Luigi." A booming voice preceded a bear of a man with silver hair and a smile that crinkled his whole face. "And this must be the mysterious woman who's finally got my nephew thinking about settling down. Uncle Sal." Luigi's demeanor shifted subtly, still guarded, but warmer. "This is Scarlett Morrison. Scarlett, Salvatore Giordano, my mother's brother. Call me Sal, sweetheart." He pulled her into a hug that smelled like garlic and cologne. "Any woman who can make this one smile is family. Come, come. Everyone's waiting in the back room." Everyone turned out to be about 15 people. Aunts, uncles, cousins, all talking over each other in a chaos that was somehow comforting. They descended on Scarlett like a friendly hurricane, asking questions, offering food, treating her like she'd always been part of the family. Luigi's mother, Francesca, was elegant and sharp-eyed, wearing pearls and a warm smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "So you're the dance teacher," she said, taking Scarlett's hands. "Luigi was devastated when you left. I've never seen him like that." "Mama," Luigi warned. "What?" "It's true." Francesca patted Scarlett's cheek. "But you're back now. That's what matters. And my grandson." Luigi showed me pictures. "He's beautiful." Tears pricked Scarlett's eyes. "Thank you. We'll get through this," Francesca said quietly. And for the first time, Scarlett felt like maybe she wasn't completely alone in this. Family takes care of family. Dinner was a boisterous affair. Pasta that melted in your mouth, wine that flowed freely, stories and laughter that made Scarlett ache for something she'd never had. Her own family was just her and her sister in Oregon, and they hadn't spoken in 2 years. She caught Luigi watching her several times, his expression unreadable. Once, when his cousin Tony made a joke and she laughed, really laughed for the first time in weeks, something flickered across Luigi's face, almost like pain. After dinner, Uncle Sal pulled Luigi aside and Scarlett found herself cornered by Luigi's younger sister, Gianna. "So," Gianna said, sipping Prosecco, "what's the real story? And don't give me that we're in love garbage." "Luigi doesn't do love. He does control." Scarlett stiffened. "I don't know what you mean. Please. I've known my brother my whole life. He's not the forgive and forget type." Gianna's dark eyes were shrewd. "You left him. Now you're back. There has to be a reason. Our son is sick. And Luigi's helping, that I believe, but marriage?" Gianna shook her head. "That's about something else. Possession, maybe. Or punishment. Probably both. You don't like your brother very much." "I love him," Gianna corrected. "But I'm not blind to what he is, what our family is. The question is, are you? Before Scarlett could answer, Luigi materialized at her side. We need to go. The hospital has visiting hours. The drive to Memorial Hospital was as silent as the drive to dinner, but this time the silence felt heavier, weighted with all the things neither of them could say. Elijah was asleep when they arrived, his small body dwarfed by medical equipment. Scarlett's heart shattered all over again seeing him like this, her vibrant, energetic boy reduced to a pale shadow. "Hey, baby," she whispered, kissing his forehead. "Mama's here." Luigi stood in the doorway, frozen, watching, and when Scarlett glanced back at him, she saw something that looked almost like fear in his eyes. "You can come in," she said softly. "He won't bite." Luigi approached slowly, like Elijah might disappear if he moved too fast. He sat in the chair opposite Scarlett, reaching out to touch Elijah's hand with surprising gentleness. "He has your nose," Luigi said quietly. "And your stubbornness, I bet." Despite everything, Scarlett smiled. "He refused to eat anything but dinosaur-shaped nuggets for 6 months straight. My mother says I only ate pasta until I was 5. Luigi stroked Elijah's tiny fingers. "We're going to fix this, whatever it takes." "I know." They sat in silence, watching their son sleep, and for just a moment, one fragile, impossible moment, Scarlett let herself imagine this was real, that they were just two parents worried about their sick child, that the love she'd once felt for Luigi hadn't curdled into this toxic mixture of need and resentment. But then Luigi's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened back into the mask she was beginning to know too well. "There's a situation," he said, standing. "Marco will take you back to the house. I'll be late." "What kind of situation?" Luigi looked at her, and in his eyes, she saw the truth she'd been trying to ignore. This man wasn't just a criminal. He was dangerous, and she'd just bound herself to him in the most permanent way possible. "The kind you don't need to worry about," he said. "Stay with Elijah as long as you want. Marco's outside." He left without another word, and Scarlett was alone with her son and the crushing weight of her choices. She'd sold herself to save Elijah. Now she just had to survive long enough to see him cured. Scarlett woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the disorienting realization that she wasn't in her cramped Houston apartment. The Ferrari mansion. Right. Her new prison. She'd spent 3 hours at the hospital last night, holding Elijah's hand while he slept, before Marco gently suggested she get some rest. Luigi never came back. Now, checking her phone, she saw it was barely 6 in the morning. Too early to visit Elijah. Too late to fall back asleep. She pulled on workout clothes from her miraculously stocked closet and padded downstairs, hoping to find coffee and solitude. Instead, she found Luigi. He was in what appeared to be a home gym, shirtless and dripping with sweat, pounding a heavy bag with methodical precision. Each hit landed with a thud that echoed through the space. His back was to her, revealing a tapestry of scars, some old and faded, others newer, a reminder of exactly what kind of life he led. Scarlett should have left, should have retreated before he noticed her, but she couldn't stop staring at the way his muscles moved, the controlled violence in every punch. This was the real Luigi Ferrari, not the charming club owner who'd swept her off her feet, but the enforcer who'd built an empire on fear and respect. "Enjoying the show?" His voice cut through her thoughts. Scarlett jumped. "I was looking for coffee. Kitchen's the other direction." Luigi grabbed a towel, wiping his face before turning to look at her. His eyes were bloodshot, exhaustion carved into every line of his face. "Couldn't sleep? Apparently neither could you. I don't sleep much these days." He moved to a weight bench, and Scarlett noticed the fresh bruises on his knuckles, darker than what punching a bag would cause. "How's your room? Everything you need?" "It's fine. Excessive, but fine." She crossed her arms. "Where did you go last night?" "Business." "That's not an answer." Luigi's smile was sharp. "No, it's not. And it's not going to be. You want to be in this world, Scarlett? Fine. But you don't get to know everything. Some things are better left in the dark. I'm not in this world by choice. Aren't you?" He stood, closing the distance between them until she could smell his sweat and the faint copper scent that might have been blood. "You walked into my club. You asked for my help. You agreed to my terms. Every step, you chose this. To save our son. And I'm saving him. But don't pretend you're some innocent victim." His voice dropped dangerously low. "You made choices too. You chose to leave, chose to keep Elijah from me, chose to come back only when you needed something. So don't stand there and act like I'm the villain when we both know you're not exactly a hero in this story. The words hit like a slap. Because he wasn't wrong. You're right, Scarlett said quietly. I made terrible choices. I was scared and young and stupid. But I'm here now trying to make it right. Something flickered in Luigi's eyes. Surprise, maybe. Like he'd expected her to fight back, not agree. Mrs. Castellano makes coffee at 6:30, he said finally, stepping away. Until then, there's a dance studio on the 3rd floor, East Wing. Figured you might want it. Scarlett's heart stuttered. You, what? You're a dancer. You'll go crazy without it. Luigi grabbed a water bottle. It's yours. Use it or don't. I don't care. He left before she could respond, and Scarlett stood alone in the gym, trying to process what had just happened. Luigi Ferrari, the man who was blackmailing her into marriage, had built her a dance studio. She had to see it. The 3rd floor was quieter, away from the main living areas. The East Wing ended in double doors that opened into a space that stole her breath. Hardwood floors, wall-to-wall mirrors, a bar running the length of one wall, sound system built into the ceiling, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the gardens, flooding the space with natural light. It was perfect. More than perfect. It was everything she'd dreamed of when she'd scraped together money for her tiny Houston studio. A note sat on the sound system console in Luigi's angular handwriting. You left your music collection at your old apartment. I had someone retrieve it. Scarlett sank onto the floor, overwhelmed. This didn't make sense. None of this made sense. The man who'd threatened her last night had also done this? Had remembered she loved to dance, had cared enough to create this space? She pulled out her phone, scrolling to Luigi's contact. Her fingers hovered over the keyboard before she typed, "Thank you for the studio." The response came 30 seconds later. "Don't read into it. I need you healthy for the pregnancy. Dancing keeps you sane." Of course, everything was transactional with him. Everything had a purpose. Scarlett pushed up from the floor, connected her phone to the sound system, and let the music wash over her. Her body remembered the movements even after months away. The stretch, the burn, the freedom of letting her body speak what her voice couldn't. She danced until sweat dripped down her spine, until her muscles screamed, until she'd purged some of the chaos swirling in her head. When she finally stopped, Mrs. Castellano was standing in the doorway with a knowing smile. "Coffee's ready, dear. And Mr. Ferrari said to tell you the car leaves for the hospital at 9. Memorial Hospital's private wing was a different world from the public areas. Quiet, carpeted hallways, private rooms with actual furniture instead of plastic chairs, and nurses who smiled instead of looking harried. Elijah was awake, playing with a tablet when Scarlett arrived. His face lit up when he saw her. "Mama, look, they have games." Scarlett kissed his forehead, relief flooding through her at seeing him alert. "That's great, baby. How are you feeling?" "Tired. But the nice lady brought me pancakes." He pointed to an empty plate. "With chocolate chips. Spoiled already, I see." Luigi's voice made her turn. He stood in the doorway, changed into a fresh suit, looking nothing like the exhausted man from this morning. But Scarlett could see the tension in his shoulders, the wariness in his eyes as he looked at Elijah. "Hi," Elijah said, tilting his head. "Are you Mama's friend?" "Something like that." Luigi stepped into the room slowly. "I'm Luigi. What's your name?" "Elijah Morrison. I'm 3.5. He held up his fingers proudly. "Mama says I'm going to have a brother or sister. Are you going to be the daddy?" Scarlett's breath caught. She hadn't explained it yet, hadn't figured out how to tell her 3-year-old that the man he'd never met was his father. But Luigi handled it better than she expected. He crouched down to Elijah's level, meeting his eyes. "Would that be okay with you? If I was your dad?" Elijah considered this seriously. "Do you like dinosaurs? They're pretty cool. And mac and cheese? The best food ever invented." "Okay." Elijah nodded decisively. "You can be my dad, but Mama's the boss. She says so all the time." Luigi's lips twitched, almost a smile. "Your Mama's definitely the boss. Don't let anyone tell you different." Dr. Ramirez arrived then, breaking the moment. "Ms. Morrison, Mr. Ferrari, can I speak with you both outside?" They followed her into the hallway, and Scarlett's stomach nodded at the doctor's serious expression. "Elijah's test results confirm acute myeloid leukemia, subtype M3. The good news is it's treatable. The bad news is we need to start chemotherapy immediately, and we'll need that sibling transplant sooner rather than later. How soon can you start trying for another child?" "We're getting married next week," Luigi said smoothly. After that, immediately. "Next week." Scarlett's head spun. "Excellent. I'll coordinate with the fertility specialist to track ovulation cycles, maximize chances of conception." Dr. Ramirez looked between them. "I know this is a lot, but time is critical. Elijah's counts are dropping faster than we'd like." After she left, Scarlett leaned against the wall, trying to breathe. A week. She had a week before she became Luigi Ferrari's wife in every legal sense. "Hey." Luigi's hand touched her shoulder, surprisingly gentle. "We'll get through this. Will we?" She looked up at him. "You hate me. I don't trust you. We're bringing another child into this mess. How is any of this going to work?" "I don't hate you." The words came out rough. "I wish I did. Would make everything simpler." Before Scarlett could process that, his phone buzzed. He glanced at it, and his expression hardened instantly. "I have to go. Marco will stay with you." He was already walking away. "Don't leave the hospital wing without him." "Luigi." "Not now, Scarlett." He didn't look back. "Just stay safe, please." And then he was gone, leaving Scarlett alone in the hallway with more questions than answers, and the sinking feeling that Luigi's world was about to crash into hers in ways she couldn't begin to imagine. Inside the room, Elijah called for her, and Scarlett pushed aside her fears. Whatever storm was coming, she'd face it. She had to. Her son's life depended on it. The wedding dress hung in Scarlett's closet like a beautiful ghost. Ivory silk with delicate lace sleeves. Elegant without being ostentatious. Francesca had taken her shopping 3 days ago, insisting that even a small family ceremony required the bride to look proper. Small? Right. Just 40 members of the Ferrari family and associates, a judge who owed Luigi favors, and a reception at Giordano's that Sal had closed to the public for the evening. Scarlett stared at her reflection in the mirror, barely recognizing the woman looking back. Hair swept into an elegant updo, makeup professionally done by someone Francesca had sent over, wearing a dress that cost more than 3 months of her old rent. "You look beautiful, Mama." Elijah sat on her bed in his tiny suit, swinging his legs. He'd been released from the hospital 2 days ago with strict instructions and a medicine schedule that would make a pharmacist weep. But he was here smiling, and that was all that mattered. "Thank you, baby." Scarlett kissed his forehead, careful not to smudge her lipstick. "You look very handsome, too. Luigi says after the party I get to stay in the big house forever, and I get my own room with dinosaur stuff." His excitement was infectious. "Is that true?" "Yes, sweetheart. We're all going to live together now." "Like a real family?" Scarlett's throat tightened. "Like a real family." A knock interrupted them. Gianna poked her head in, wearing a deep burgundy bridesmaid dress. "It's time. You ready?" No. She wasn't ready. Would never be ready to legally bind herself to a man who saw her as both punishment and prize. "Ready as I'll ever be." The ceremony took place in the mansion's garden, beneath an arch covered in white roses. Late afternoon sunlight turned everything golden, and a string quartet played softly as guests took their seats. Luigi stood at the altar with the priest, and Scarlett's breath caught despite everything. He wore a black tuxedo that fit him like sin, his dark hair slicked back, those green eyes tracking her every movement as she walked down the makeshift aisle on Uncle Sal's arm. No father to give her away, no family of her own. Just Sal, who'd volunteered with gruff kindness that made her want to cry. "You got this, sweetheart," Sal whispered. "And if he steps out of line, you let me know. Nephew or not, nobody disrespects a Giordano woman." Giordano woman. As if she already belonged to this family. Maybe she did. Luigi took her hand when she reached him, and electricity shot up her arm at the contact. His thumb brushed her knuckles, a gesture so small, so intimate that it made her dizzy. "You look stunning," he murmured, and for once there was no sarcasm in his voice. Just truth. "You clean up okay yourself." His lips quirked. "High praise from the woman who once told me my suits were offensively expensive." "They are. And yet you're wearing a dress that cost more. Your mother picked it out. I paid for it. So technically, you're offensively expensive too now." Scarlett bit back a smile despite herself. How did he do that? Make her want to laugh when everything about this was wrong? The priest cleared his throat, and the ceremony began. Traditional vows. Love, honor, cherish, in sickness and health. Each word felt like a lie and a promise simultaneously. When Luigi slid the ring onto her finger, a platinum band with a single perfect diamond, his hand trembled almost imperceptibly. Nobody else would have noticed, but Scarlett did. I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. Luigi's eyes met hers, asking permission despite the audience. Scarlett gave the barest nod, and he leaned in. The kiss was soft, careful, nothing like the passionate embraces they'd shared 3 years ago. This was different. A kiss weighted with history and hurt, with the fragile possibility of something neither of them dared name. When they pulled apart, applause erupted, and Scarlett realized she'd forgotten there were witnesses, forgotten everything except the way Luigi looked at her, like she was a puzzle he was desperate to solve. Well, Luigi said quietly, for her ears only. No going back now, Mrs. Ferrari. Mrs. Ferrari. The name settled over her like a cloak, protective and suffocating in equal measure. The reception at Giordano's was everything Scarlett expected. Too much food, too much wine, too many well-meaning relatives asking when they'd give Elijah a sibling. If they only knew the answer was, as soon as medically possible. Elijah charmed everyone, his energy flagging by 8, but still managing to dance with Gianna and steal bites of wedding cake when he thought nobody was watching. Luigi kept a careful eye on him, and Scarlett noticed how he'd positioned himself to always have a clear view of their son. Protective. Even now, even with Elijah safe among family, Luigi was on guard. Dance with me. Luigi appeared at her elbow during a slow song, offering his hand. Scarlett let him lead her to the floor, his palm warm against her lower back as they swayed to the music. This close, she could smell his cologne, cedar and something spicy that made her want to press closer despite her better judgment. Your family's nice, she said, needing to break the silence. They like you. Uncle Sal's already planning Sunday dinners for the next month. Luigi spun her gently. Fair warning, you're stuck with them now. Ferraris don't do casual. I noticed. Scarlett watched his sister dancing with Marco, laughing at something he said. Gianna doesn't trust me. Gianna doesn't trust anyone. Occupational hazard. His hand tightened on her waist. She'll come around, especially once she sees you're not going anywhere. Am I not? Luigi's eyes darkened. You signed the papers, Scarlett. You're mine for better or worse, and trust me, there's going to be plenty of worse before we find any better. That's not comforting. Wasn't meant to be, just honest. He pulled her closer, and Scarlett felt his breath against her ear. But I keep my promises. I'll take care of you and Elijah, whatever it takes, even if it destroys us both. Luigi was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rough with something that might have been regret. Yeah, even then. The song ended, and Uncle Sal announced it was time to cut the cake. Scarlett plastered on a smile, fed Luigi a bite while cameras flashed, and pretended this was a real wedding instead of a beautiful disaster. By 9:30, Elijah was asleep in her arms, exhausted from the excitement. Luigi touched her shoulder. Let's get him home. Marco can wrap things up here. Home. The word settled strangely, both foreign and comfortable. The drive back to the mansion was quiet, Elijah snoring softly between them in the back seat. Luigi carried him upstairs to the bedroom that had been transformed into a 3-year-old's dream. Dinosaur bedding, toy chest overflowing, nightlight shaped like a T-Rex. He's going to lose his mind when he wakes up here, Scarlett whispered, tucking Elijah in. Luigi stood in the doorway watching. He deserves it. Deserves everything I couldn't give him because I didn't know he existed. The accusation hung unspoken but clear. This is your fault. I know, Scarlett said quietly. I know I took that from you, and I'm sorry. For what it's worth, I'm sorry. Luigi didn't respond, just turned and walked down the hall to the sitting room that connected their bedrooms. Scarlett followed, finding him at the window, staring out at the gardens. Dr. Ramirez called this afternoon, he said without turning. Your cycle suggests optimal fertility window starts in 3 days. She wants us to try naturally first before considering medical intervention. 3 days. Scarlett's stomach flipped. Okay. Okay? Luigi turned to face her. That's it? No fight? No objections? What's the point? Scarlett kicked off her heels, suddenly exhausted. This is why we're here. Why I agreed to this. To save Elijah. So yeah. Okay. This isn't going to be some sterile, mechanical thing, Scarlett. Luigi crossed the room and predatory grace was back in every movement. When I take you to bed, when I'm inside you, it's going to be real. All of it. Heat flooded Scarlett's body despite herself. I understand. Do you? He stopped inches away, close enough that she had to tilt her head to meet his eyes. Because 3 years ago you couldn't handle what I am, what I do. Now you're my wife. That means you're part of this world whether you like it or not. There's blood on my hands, Scarlett, always will be. Can you live with that? She should say no, should run while she still could. But when she thought of Elijah sleeping down the hall, of the second child they'd create to save him, she knew running wasn't an option anymore. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not for me. Not anymore. Scarlett reached up, touching his jaw. The gesture surprised them both. You're right. I couldn't handle it before. I was 18, naive, thought the world was simpler than it is. But I'm not that girl anymore. I've been broke, desperate, watching my son slowly die. So yeah, I can handle it. I can handle you. Something flickered in Luigi's eyes. Respect maybe, mixed with desire that made her pulse race. We'll see, he murmured. Then surprising her, he stepped back. Get some rest. Tomorrow we start dealing with the reality of this marriage. Tonight you get a reprieve. He disappeared into his bedroom, leaving Scarlett alone in the sitting room, her heart pounding and her body still burning from his proximity. She'd married Luigi Ferrari today, bound herself to him legally, would soon bind herself to him physically, and somewhere beneath the fear and resentment, a traitorous part of her whispered that maybe, just maybe, this didn't have to be only a transaction. Maybe they could find something real in the wreckage of their past. Or maybe they'd destroy each other completely. Scarlett was betting on the latter. But for Elijah, she'd bet on anything. The third morning of her marriage, Scarlett woke to screaming. Not Elijah. Her son slept peacefully down the hall, monitored by the night nurse Luigi had insisted on hiring. No, the screaming came from Luigi's room, muffled but unmistakable. Nightmares. She should stay in bed, mind her business. Whatever demons haunted Luigi Ferrari weren't her problem, but her feet were already moving, pushing through the connecting door before she could second-guess herself. Luigi thrashed in his bed, sheets tangled around him, face contorted in anguish. No, Marcus, get down, get down. Scarlett touched his shoulder. Luigi, wake up. He exploded into motion, grabbing her wrist and flipping her onto the bed beneath him in one fluid movement. His hand closed around her throat, not squeezing, but positioned to kill, and his eyes were wild, unseeing. Luigi, Scarlett gasped. It's me. It's Scarlett. You're dreaming. Recognition filtered slowly back into his gaze. Horror replaced the blankness. He released her instantly, scrambling backward like she'd burned him. Christ. He pressed his hands to his face. Did I hurt you? Scarlett sat up, rubbing her wrist where he'd grabbed her. It would bruise. I'm okay. Who's Marcus? Nobody. Luigi's voice was rough. Go back to bed, Scarlett. You were screaming his name. I said go back to bed. The roar made her flinch, but Scarlett held her ground. No. Luigi's laugh was bitter. No? You don't get to say no, Mrs. Ferrari. That's not how this works. Then explain to me how it works. Scarlett moved closer despite the danger radiating off him. Because right now all I see is a man tormented by something he won't talk about. And in 3 days you expect me to let you inside my body. So yeah, I think I deserve some honesty. The silence stretched thin. Then Luigi stood, crossing to the window. The early morning light caught the scars on his back. Some from bullets, others from blades, and one that looked suspiciously like a burn. Marcus was my best friend, he said finally. We grew up together. He was supposed to be my second in command. His hands clenched on the windowsill. 2 years ago we walked into an ambush. The Moretti family thought they could take over our territory. Marcus pushed me out of the way when the shooting started. Scarlett's heart sank. He died. Not immediately. He bled out in my arms while I tried to stop it. Took 40 minutes for the ambulance to get there because the bastards had blocked the roads. Luigi's voice was emotionless now, which somehow made it worse. I held him the whole time, listened to him choking on his own blood, and I couldn't do anything except watch my brother die. Luigi. The nightmares started after that. Some nights I'm back in that warehouse. Other nights it's different. Elijah's the one bleeding out, or you or my mother. Everyone I care about dying while I stand there useless. He turned to face her. So forgive me if I'm not great with emotional intimacy. Tends to get people killed. Scarlett crossed the room, ignoring the warning in his posture. She took his face in her hands, forcing him to look at her. Marcus's death wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I'm the one who made the call to meet them. I'm the one who... You didn't pull the trigger. The Morettis did. Scarlett's thumbs brushed his cheekbones. And pushing everyone away won't bring him back. It'll just make you alone. Maybe I deserve to be alone. Maybe. But Elijah doesn't deserve a father who's too broken to let him in. And She hesitated, then plunged forward. I don't want to be married to a ghost. Luigi's hands came up to cover hers, his grip almost painful. You don't know what you're asking for. Then show me. The kiss was different from their wedding kiss, desperate instead of careful, raw instead of measured. Luigi backed her against the wall, his body hard against hers, and Scarlett melted into it despite every rational thought screaming that this was dangerous. His mouth moved to her neck, teeth grazing sensitive skin. This is a bad idea. Probably. Scarlett's fingers tangled in his hair. Do it anyway. Luigi pulled back just enough to meet her eyes. Not like this. Not when you're trying to fix me out of pity. His jaw clenched. When I take you to bed, it'll be because you want me, not because you feel sorry for me. I don't. Yes, you do. I can see it in your face. He released her, stepping back. Go check on Elijah. I need to clear my head. Scarlett wanted to argue, but the shutters had come down over Luigi's expression. He was gone even though his body remained. Fine. She straightened her nightgown. But Luigi? That day you're waiting for? When I want you without pity or obligation? She moved to the door, pausing to look back. It might come sooner than you think. Breakfast was awkward. Elijah chattered about the dinosaur books Gianna had brought him, oblivious to the tension crackling between his parents. Luigi answered in monosyllables, barely touching his coffee. Mrs. Castellano watched them with knowing eyes. Mr. Ferrari, don't forget you have that meeting at 11. What meeting? Scarlett asked. Business. Luigi stood, kissing Elijah's forehead. Be good for your mother. I'll be back for dinner. Can we go to the park? Elijah asked hopefully. Not today, buddy. Doctor said you need to rest. But I'm not tired. How about we set up your dinosaurs in the playroom instead? Scarlett intervened before Elijah could work himself into a tantrum. We can make a whole Jurassic Park. That distracted him, and Luigi shot her a grateful look before disappearing. The morning passed quietly, playing with Elijah, giving him his medications, reading until he fell asleep for his nap. Scarlett was heading to her dance studio when Marco intercepted her. Mrs. Ferrari, Mr. Ferrari wants you at the Velvet Sapphire. There's a situation. Scarlett's stomach dropped. What kind of situation? The kind where having his wife present sends a message. Marco's expression was unreadable. Get dressed. Something nice but not flashy. We leave in 20 minutes. The Velvet Sapphire looked different in daylight. Less glamorous, more utilitarian. Marco led her through the main floor to Luigi's office, where voices raised in argument filtered through the door. Disrespectful bringing her into this. That was Gianna. She's my wife. She has every right to be here. Luigi's voice was steel. She's a liability. You've gone soft, Fratello. First the kid, now this shotgun marriage. Watch yourself. Or what? You'll cut me out like you did the Russos? Wake up, Luigi. The other families are circling because they smell weakness, and parading around your civilian wife isn't helping. Marco knocked once before opening the door. The office fell silent. Luigi stood behind his desk, Gianna across from him, and three men Scarlett didn't recognize occupied the leather chairs. Gentlemen. Luigi's demeanor shifted instantly. Cold. Commanding. My wife, Scarlett Ferrari. Scarlett, this is Antonio Russo, head of the Russo family, and his sons, Vincent and Paolo. The older man stood, assessing Scarlett with sharp eyes. So this is the woman who finally tamed the wolf. Congratulations, Mrs. Ferrari. Thank you. Scarlett moved to Luigi's side, letting his arm slide around her waist. The gesture looked possessive, protective, a statement. We were just discussing business, Antonio continued. Your husband has been resistant to certain proposals. My husband makes his own decisions. Scarlett kept her voice level. As I'm sure you understand, Mr. Russo. Vincent, the younger son, smirked. She's got fire. I like her. You don't get to like her. Luigi's voice dropped dangerously. In fact, you don't get to look at her. Are we clear? The temperature in the room plummeted. Antonio raised a hand before his son could respond. Peace, Ferrari. We're here to negotiate, not start wars. He pulled out a folder, sliding it across the desk. These are our terms for the shipment routes through the port. Fair percentage, guaranteed security, mutual benefit. Luigi didn't touch the folder. I already told you the ports stay neutral, no exclusive deals. Even for family? Antonio's smile didn't reach his eyes. Because I seem to remember your mother was a Russo before she married your father. That makes us cousins, Luigi. Blood. Distant cousins. And blood doesn't buy preferential treatment. Perhaps your wife disagrees. Antonio turned to Scarlett. What do you think, Mrs. Ferrari? Should family stick together? It was a test. Scarlett could feel everyone's eyes on her. Gianna hostile, Marco neutral, Luigi tense as a coiled spring. I think, Scarlett said carefully, that my husband built his reputation on being fair. The moment he shows favoritism, he loses credibility. And credibility is worth more than any shipment route. Antonio studied her for a long moment. Then he laughed. A genuine, surprised sound. Smart woman. Your mother chose well for you, Luigi. He stood, buttoning his jacket. We'll find another solution. But remember, fair goes both ways. You owe us nothing, but we owe you nothing either. It was a warning wrapped in politeness. After they left, Gianna rounded on Luigi. Are you insane? You just made an enemy of the Russos. They were never friends, just vultures waiting for weakness. Luigi finally relaxed his grip on Scarlett's waist. Besides, my wife's right. Favoritism would have destroyed us faster than any enemy. Gianna looked between them, something unreadable flashing across her face. Maybe she's not completely useless after all. High praise from you, Scarlett said dryly. Don't get used to it. But Gianna's lips quirked slightly. You handled Antonio well. Most people fold under that stare. I've faced scarier things than crime bosses. Scarlett thought of those terrifying nights watching Elijah struggle to breathe, of choosing between medicine and groceries. No offense. None taken. Gianna grabbed her purse. I'm going to smooth things over with the Russo's street crew. Make sure nobody gets jumpy and starts a shooting war. She paused at the door. Luigi, stop being an idiot and actually talk to your wife. She's not going anywhere, might as well make it work. After she left, Luigi sank into his desk chair, suddenly looking exhausted. Welcome to my world, Mrs. Ferrari. Still think you can handle it? Scarlett perched on the edge of his desk. Antonio called your bluff. He knew you wouldn't give preferential treatment. So why the whole performance? Because now everyone knows I have a wife who understands the game. That makes you valuable. Protected. Luigi's eyes met hers. It also makes you a target. I figured. And you're okay with that? Scarlett thought of Elijah, of the life growing inside her in a few months if everything went according to plan, of this strange, broken family she'd married into. I'm okay with a lot of things I never thought I'd be okay with. She touched Luigi's hand. But you need to trust me, Luigi. Actually trust me. Because if we're going to survive this, all of this, we can't keep dancing around each other. Luigi turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. The gesture was tentative, like he was testing whether she'd pull away. She didn't. Dinner tonight. Just us. His thumb brushed her knuckles. No family, no business. We need to talk. Really talk. About everything we've been avoiding. Marcus, you leaving? What happens when we try for another child? His eyes held hers. And whether there's any chance this marriage becomes real. Scarlett's heart stuttered. You want that? For this to be real? I don't know what I want. Luigi's honesty was startling. But I know I'm tired of pretending I don't care about you. That I didn't spend 3 years trying to forget you and failing. The vulnerability in his voice cracked something open in Scarlett's chest. Okay, dinner. Just us. She squeezed his hand. Fair warning. I'm probably going to ask uncomfortable questions. I'd expect nothing less. For the first time since this mess started, Scarlett thought maybe, just maybe, they had a chance. Then Luigi's phone buzzed with a message that made his face go pale. What is it? The Morettis. They just moved into New Orleans. Luigi stood, already reaching for his gun. And they know about Elijah. The mansion transformed into a fortress within hours. Armed guards at every entrance. Security cameras monitoring every angle. And Elijah moved to a panic room disguised as a playroom in the basement. Reinforced walls. Separate ventilation. Enough supplies to last a week. Scarlett held her son while Luigi barked orders into his phone, coordinating with his crew. Elijah sensed the tension, clinging tighter than usual. Mama, why are there so many people with guns? They're keeping us safe, baby. From what? From people who want to hurt Daddy's business. Not a lie, just incomplete truth. Luigi crouched beside them, his expression softening when he looked at Elijah. Hey, buddy, remember how we talked about you being a big, brave boy? Elijah nodded seriously. I need you to be brave now. Stay down here with Mama and Mrs. Castellano. It's like an adventure, okay? You've got snacks, movies, all your dinosaurs. Are you staying too? I have to go make sure the bad guys don't come close. But Marco's right outside that door and he's the toughest guy I know. Luigi kissed Elijah's forehead. I'll be back before bedtime. Promise. After Elijah was settled watching cartoons, Luigi pulled Scarlett aside. The Morettis sent a message. They want a meeting. Neutral ground. It's a trap. Probably. But if I don't go, they'll escalate. Maybe hit the hospital or one of our businesses. People will die. His jaw clenched. I won't let that happen. Then I'm coming with you. Absolutely not. Luigi, think about it. They want to intimidate you, show you they can hurt your family. But if I'm there, standing beside you, it proves they haven't rattled you, that we're united. Scarlett grabbed his jacket. Plus, they're less likely to start shooting if a woman's present. Even criminals have some code. These criminals killed Marcus in cold blood, which is why you need every advantage. Scarlett met his eyes. Trust me, please. Luigi looked torn, emotions warring across his face. Finally, he nodded. You stay behind me. You do exactly what I say. And if shooting starts, you run. Understood? Understood. The meeting was set for the old shipyard. Abandoned warehouses and rusted shipping containers creating a maze of shadows. Luigi's crew flanked them, weapons concealed but ready. Scarlett wore jeans and a leather jacket, her hair pulled back, trying to look braver than she felt. Dante Moretti waited in the center of the yard with a dozen men. He was younger than Scarlett expected, maybe 30, with cold eyes and a smile that promised violence. Ferrari. And you brought the wife, how domestic. Dante's gaze raked over Scarlett. She's prettier than the photos. I can see why you went soft. State your business, Moretti. Luigi's voice was ice. Business? This is pleasure. See, you destroyed my family 2 years ago. Killed my father, my uncles, scattered us like rats. Dante circled them slowly. But we rebuilt, got stronger, and now we're back to collect what you owe. Your father attacked first. He killed Marcus. Collateral damage. Dante shrugged. But I'm a reasonable man. I'll make you a deal. Give me half your territory, half your profits, and I'll let your pretty family live. Wife, kid, the whole package. Not happening. Then I'll take it by force, and I'll start with the boy. Dante's smile widened. Sick kid in a hospital? Would be a shame if something happened to his IV, or maybe the oxygen gets cut off. These things happen. Scarlett felt Luigi tense beside her, murder radiating off him. She squeezed his hand. A warning. Don't give him what he wants. You touch Elijah, Scarlett said clearly, and you won't have to worry about Luigi. I'll hunt you down myself. Dante laughed. Fierce. I like her. Tell you what, leave Ferrari, come work for me, and maybe I'll spare the kid. She's not for sale. Luigi's gun was out before Scarlett could blink, aimed at Dante's head. Around them, 24 weapons rose in response. And neither is my family. You gonna shoot me, Ferrari? In front of all these witnesses? Dante spread his arms. Go ahead. Start a war you can't win. Who says I can't win? The voice came from behind Dante. Antonio Russo stepped from the shadows, his own crew materializing from the containers. Then Uncle Sal appeared from another direction, and Gianna from a third, each leading armed soldiers. Dante's confidence faltered. What is this? This, Luigi said calmly, is family. Real family. Not the kind you buy with threats and violence. Antonio moved to stand beside Luigi. The Russos may not get special treatment on shipping routes, but we protect our own. And Scarlett Ferrari is blood now, as is her son, Sal added. You threaten one Giordano, you threaten us all. Gianna raised her gun, aiming at Dante's second in command. And I really hate people who threaten kids. Makes me trigger happy. Dante looked around, realizing he was surrounded. His men shifted nervously. This isn't over, Ferrari. Yeah, it is. Luigi's voice was final. You have 2 choices. Leave New Orleans tonight and never come back. Or we end this right now, and you join your father. The standoff stretched. Scarlett held her breath, counting heartbeats. Finally, Dante lowered his weapon. You'll regret this. I doubt it. Luigi didn't lower his gun until Dante and his crew had disappeared into the night. Only then did he holster it, turning to Antonio. Thank you. Thank your wife. She's the one who called me after you left the mansion. Antonio nodded to Scarlett. Smart woman. Understanding that pride isn't worth your son's life. Scarlett had made the calls during those frantic minutes. To Antonio, to Sal, even to Gianna. Gambling that family bonds would override business disputes. It had been a desperate move, but it worked. They returned to the mansion near midnight. Elijah was asleep in the panic room, Mrs. Castellano dozing in a chair nearby. Luigi carried his son upstairs to his bedroom. tucking him in with a gentleness that made Scarlett's heart ache. "He didn't even wake up," Luigi whispered. "Kid sleeps through a mob standoff. He's had practice sleeping through chaos." Scarlett smoothed Elijah's hair. "His first year, our neighbor's car alarm went off every night at 2 a.m. Nothing phases him." They stood together, watching their son sleep. Finally, Luigi took her hand. "Come with me." He led her to the dance studio, closing the doors behind them. The moonlight through the windows cast everything in silver. "I need to say something," Luigi started, "and I need you to let me finish before you respond." Scarlett nodded, nervous. "When you left 3 years ago, I was devastated, but I was also relieved." He ran a hand through his hair. "Because loving you terrified me, made me vulnerable, made me imagine a different life, one where I wasn't the wolf, where I could be just Luigi, and that fantasy was dangerous." "Luigi, let me finish." He took her hands. "Then you came back, and I told myself I was angry, that I'd make you pay for leaving. But the truth is, I was grateful. Grateful for a second chance, even if it came wrapped in the worst circumstances imaginable." Scarlett's eyes burned with unshed tears. "Tonight, watching you stand up to Moretti, seeing you call in my family to protect our son, I realized something." Luigi's voice cracked. "You're not just here because of Elijah. You're here because somewhere along the way you decided we were worth fighting for. This broken, violent, impossible situation, you chose it anyway." "I chose you," Scarlett whispered. "Despite everything, because of everything." Luigi cupped her face. "I don't deserve you, don't deserve another chance, but if you're willing to give me one anyway." He kissed her softly. "I promise I'll spend the rest of my life earning it." 3 days, Scarlett said against his lips. "The doctor said 3 days until my fertile window. Forget the schedule." Luigi pulled back to meet her eyes. "When we make our second child, it won't be because we have to. It'll be because we want to. Because this marriage is real. Because I love you, Scarlett Ferrari. I think I never stopped. I love you too." The words tumbled out, surprising them both with their truth. "Even when I hated you, I loved you. How messed up is that?" "Pretty messed up." Luigi smiled, a real smile that reached his eyes. "Good thing we match." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Scarlett felt the last walls between them crumble. This wasn't about obligation or transactions anymore. This was real, messy and complicated, and absolutely real. "Take me to bed," Scarlett said. "Not because we have to, because I want you. All of you. The club owner and the mob boss and everything in between." Luigi swept her into his arms, carrying her to his bedroom. "Fair warning, I'm not letting you go after tonight. You're stuck with me. Promise? Promise." 2 years later, Elijah's 7th birthday party filled the mansion with chaos. Kids running everywhere, Marco dressed as a dinosaur, Gianna supervising the bounce house with the intensity of a military operation. Scarlett watched from the kitchen, one hand on her swollen belly, 8 months pregnant with their daughter, and she still couldn't quite believe this was her life. "Mama, look what Uncle Sal gave me." Elijah burst in, waving a remote control car. His hair had grown back thick and dark after the transplant, and his cheeks had color again. Healthy, thriving. Their second child, a son they'd named Marcus, had been a perfect bone marrow match. The transplant happened when Elijah was 4, and he'd been in remission ever since. Little Marcus was now 18 months old, currently napping upstairs and probably the most spoiled toddler in New Orleans. "That's amazing, baby. Remember to say thank you." "I did. Can I show Luigi?" "Dad," Luigi corrected, entering the kitchen. He'd insisted Elijah call him Dad after the adoption was finalized. "And yes, show me this car." While Elijah demonstrated, Luigi's hand found Scarlett's waist, pulling her close. "How are my girls?" Their daughter kicked in response, making them both laugh. "Active. She's definitely your child." "Nah, she's got your fighting spirit." Luigi kissed Scarlett's temple. "Uncle Sal wants to know if we're ready for Sunday dinner tomorrow." "When are we ever ready for Sunday dinner?" "Fair point." Life wasn't perfect. Luigi still had nightmares sometimes, and the business still brought danger to their doorstep. But they faced it together now, a real family built from broken pieces and second chances. "Hey," Scarlett said, catching Luigi's hand. "Thank you for giving us this. Thank you for not giving up on me." Luigi's eyes held that soft look reserved only for her and their children. "Even when I gave you every reason to. Well, someone had to save you from yourself. Lucky me you volunteered." Through the window, they watched Elijah play with his cousins. healthy and happy and whole. Upstairs, Marcus would wake soon, demanding attention, and in a few weeks their daughter would arrive, completing their chaotic, beautiful family. Scarlett had sold her freedom to save her son. Instead, she'd found something she never expected, a home,